is the heat. 36 degrees. That's like almost 100 degrees now in Fahrenheit.
96.
Lots of people coming and going to the cars for ice, and they're really suffering. And we have this picture here that we found on the social media page of Tadej Pogačar, of him sitting in an ice bath straight after the finish inside the van of his team. So usually what happens is Pogačar has to go to the podium to do all the protocol. The team bus leaves with all the riders, and there's a van that stays behind for Pogačar. So in that van, they've installed an ice bath, and here he is in the ice bath, cooling down after the finish.
Hello and welcome back to JB Squared. My gosh, it's starting to fly by now. Stage 12. When you get over halfway from the Tour de France, it just starts to go really fast. And I think that's going to really kick in. I'm JB Hager, joined by Johan Bruneel. This is JB Squared, your additional show to the move where Johan can go much, much, much deeper, especially on tactics. Before we get into today's another historic stage, how many times have we said that already? I first want to thank our title sponsor for JB Squared this year, Ketone IQ. We've been working with them for some time, but we're happy to have them on JB Squared. So we need to get our ketones on, Johan.
I'll do the same, JB.
Get that.
This is the first of 3 podcasts for me, so I need to go long until I'm finishing around 12 o'clock. So this helps a lot with mental clarity.
And when he says, he's talking about midnight. The man works nonstop. There we go. Hey, give Ketone IQ a try. Not only for the physical benefits, the mental clarity, appetite suppression, and you've even uncovered some research that it helps with sleep. 30% off your first subscription order and a free 6-pack when you use this link, ketone.com/themove. All right, before we get into the historic part of today's sprint stage, Johan, because I want to spend some time on it closer to the end and show a clip that you sent me that I think everyone will really get a kick out of. Let's kind of start with more of, as the day started, there's some abandons. Mm-hmm. There's COVID going around. There's other thing going on, some key people losing teammates. So let's dig into some of that first and talk about who that affects the most. Obviously, they're either sprinters or GC guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a sprint stage. I think it's the last stage of the tour that was above 200 kilometers. From now on, it's all sub 200 kilometers. But anyways, it was a super, super fast start. We saw some abandons. Pello Bilbao abandoned. Morkov didn't start. Both of them reportedly due to COVID. Apparently, there's COVID going around in the Tour de France. Fabio Jakobsen abandoned because he was completely empty. So obviously, those guys, Pello Bilbao, for example, you could see that he was not on his usual level. We haven't seen him yet in this Tour de France. And normally, he was top 10 last year and he won a stage and he was not his usual self. From what I hear within Bahrain, they have a problem with the virus, but they're not the only ones. So I think reportedly there are some riders actually racing the Tour de France with COVID. How things have changed.
I know. We were talking about it earlier this morning, I think off the air, but it's like you could have COVID. I've had COVID where it didn't feel like anything. Mm-hmm. And so even if you have it and it doesn't feel like much, what if you pass it to a teammate? You're in the bus and they have horrible symptoms.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky thing. So, maybe on the safe side, you send them home. I don't know.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Obviously 3 years ago, COVID was completely different. I think by now, almost everybody in the Tour de France has had COVID. For sure, everybody's vaccinated. So I think the symptoms are a lot different right now. But anyways, it is still there. And it's just I think it's the proof is, JB, that, it's a virus like any other virus. But if your immune system is down, mm-hmm. if you're so empty, these guys are now very vulnerable. anything that flies around, they catch it. Their body's not resistant to it because they are completely depleted, But that's one of the reasons why they catch it. We saw 3 other riders having to go home. Jonas Rickaard and Søren Kragh Andersen from Alpecin and Fedorov from Astana. They didn't make the time limit. Only 28 minutes today was the time limit because it was a flat stage. Rickaard, I think, was involved in a crash. Fedorov, I don't know. And Kragh Andersen got dropped like mid-stage. But, 28 minutes, that's nothing compared to a peloton that's really going full gas. I think the average speed was like 47 kilometers per hour or something on what's in theory an easy stage. I heard
Pogačar talking about how he liked that it was a faster pace.
47.5
as opposed to the sprint stage a couple of days ago where they cruised really slow. He said, I didn't like that. And I get, it's just amazing how they like to keep that intensity up. It's just like you talk about on the rest days.
It's also because it's boring. If you have a 200 kilometer stage and the pace is really, really slow, it's super boring. And, whatever, if it's a relatively easy parkour, then normally like 43, 44 kilometers, that's cruising in the peloton.
Yeah. Right? The worst 100-mile ride I've ever done in my life was helping a friend do their first 100 miles. It was like 7 hours. It was the worst day of my life.
Yeah, they do one of those every day of the tour.
Anyway.
Yeah. Also, JB, before we start to talk about the stage, we also woke up to the news that the team Total Energies woke up and surprisingly they had been broken in their truck. 11 bikes were stolen, about 160,000 euros of value. So imagine how they started the day. I heard that some riders were on their third bike, like the second spare bike. Usually, they have the race bike, they have a spare bike, and then there's another bike in case something happens, right? So that's a bummer.
It sounds like this happens often. Lance and George seem to think, oh yeah, it happens quite often. I would have a mechanic sleeping with the bikes.
Well, normally, I don't know what they did, but normally I remember, because the trucks, they open in the back, right? And so usually you park the truck very close, even very close to a wall that nobody, or you put the bus and the truck together, right? And you almost park them so nobody can open the doors.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know if that happened or not. But obviously, if that happens in the middle of the tour, that's a huge disturbance.
Yeah, we've talked about there's enough stress as it is for mechanics, and then you have to deal with this.
Yeah,
crazy. But for the most part, they're racing on a bike you could buy off the shelf. Do they try to rush additional bikes to them?
They're gonna get extra bikes. They're gonna need extra bikes, right? The thing is that normally, if that happens, 11 bikes, most likely, if you can imagine a little bit what the setup is inside the truck, inside the equipment truck, the bikes that they race on are the ones that are first, because that's the ones that have been worked on, and they're there, and that's the first ones that they take out. So most likely those 11 bikes, 8 of those were the race bikes, which is then for sure everybody's on their spare bike, and that's absolutely not fun to start the day like that. But they got through.
Yeah, I'll mention something only because it was out in the public, but Lance had some bikes stolen from storage not long ago, and I think it was 5 bikes. 3 of them are like undeniably Lance's bikes. Like there's no hiding it. They're just so distinct. And so what are these criminals trying to, or do they just part it out? And I don't know what.
Most of the time they don't know what they're taking. It's just, it's just probably a gang, and they just go for.
They just see a big truck, they break in, let's just take whatever it is. If it would have been stereos, they would have stolen stereos.
Yeah, these bikes, they're not going to be easy to sell, because specific brand. Normally they have the team colors. If you want to sell a bike like this for a decent price, it needs to be somebody who understands, because otherwise they're going to sell them for 500 euros.
Yeah.
If you want to sell it for a decent price, it's going to be somebody who understands, and he will most likely have heard about the news.
Yeah. It's probably just someone trying to dump them, like you're saying, just quick cash.
Yeah.
What a shame. And a pain just a pain to deal with. So, like I said, there's so much stress already and so many things that have to be perfect. And then you have to deal with that. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit early in the sprint, breakaway, some riders. We see Girmay and Philipsen going at it in an intermediate sprint, which they were going hard.
Yeah. So there were four riders in the break. From what I've heard, I mean, I didn't see the start of the stage, but it was super, super fast. Then there was a crash. Quite a few riders involved. Even Pogačar was involved, needed a new bike. And that's when the four riders went away. From that moment on, four riders, you already know, okay, this is going to be the typical stage. Four riders in the break, 2 or 3 teams controlling, and a bunch sprint. From the moment there were four riders, that's it. That's what a team who wants to have a bunch sprint wants, right? And that's what happened. So these four riders stayed away. We saw a sprint, an intermediate sprint for the points between Girmay and Philipsen. Girmay beat Philipsen today, which is usually an indication of what's going to come later. So obviously, Girmay is you can see he's in great shape. He showed it already there. I mean, and then we saw that Alpecin and Movistar started to set the pace in the peloton. Movistar lost their possibilities for the good GC. Enric Mas is far behind. I think he lost 10 minutes the other day. So now they need to try to do something. And Gaviria has been up there a few times in the sprint. So they gave him all the support, which was nice to see. But of course, 2 teams, the breakaway has no chance, right? And so they basically caught them whenever they wanted. Again, I want to mention once again, Jonas Abrahamsson. What a guy. What a guy. I mean, this guy is in all the breakaways. He's still wearing the polka dot jersey, on behalf of Pogačar. But I think today with this breakaway and the few points he scored, they're again on equal points for the polka dot jersey. This guy
he picked up more polka dot points today.
Yes, he did.
Okay, so he's tied with Pogačar on that. Does it and then does it defers to the leader? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who has it now specifically. I know that they're tied on points. Let me quickly check.
Well, I mean, it's going to end up on Pogačar.
So Pogačar and Abrahamsson have 36 points each, but Pogačar is in first, I guess, because he scored on higher category climbs than.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
He's an exciting rider.
The guy's impressive. I mean, really impressive. And if you see today, he was all day out there, all day, and already several days. But yet, in the final, deep in the final, in the last 2 kilometers, he was still up there trying to keep Christoph, his teammate Alexander Christoph, in the front. I mean, to be able to do that after such a long breakaway, that's incredible.
Yeah.
The guy is in incredible shape.
It's always cool when in the tour when you can have a rider who can pursue personal ambitions and still work when they need to. We've seen that with Wout van Aert, in the past. He can accomplish personal goals and work his ass off for whoever needs it.
Another thing to mention today is the heat. 36 degrees. That's like almost 100 degrees now in far.
96.
Yeah.
That's up there. Yeah, that's up there.
You can see,
97.
Lots of people coming and going to the cars for ice, and they're really suffering. And we have this picture here that we found on the social media page of Tadej Pogačar of him sitting in an ice bath straight after the finish inside the van of his team. So usually what happens is Pogačar has to go to the podium to do all the protocol. The team bus leaves with all the riders, and there's a van that stays behind for Pogačar. So in that van, they've installed an ice bath, and here he is in the ice pad, cooling down after the finish.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's it's just like jammed in there into the van. It's like, could they do a stand-up cryo machine in the bus? Have you seen those? They don't take up much space, but maybe the water's more effective. I don't know.
But obviously, if you can do it straight after the finish, and if you can do it on your way to the hotel, that's a huge advantage, because it's all about, accelerating your recovery. Like if your body has to cool down normally, it takes a while, and you're sweating, and it's still after the stage, you're still super hot, super uncomfortable. So if you can get straight into that ice bath on your way to the hotel, that's an advantage, in my opinion.
And believe me, stick with us, because we are going to get to, we normally start out with the biggest story of the day. We're holding on to it a little bit today. So stick with us, because as we saw them have the run in, we saw another crash, road furniture. Roglic is hurt. We don't know how much. As of starting this show 15 minutes ago, we were trying to find out and get an injury report. But a significant time loss. I think he's fallen back far enough that, well, one, we don't know if he's going to be able to start tomorrow.
Yeah,
we'll get that report, but it was a big time deficit he took on today.
2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes. You could see. First of all, if you look at the images of the crash, the Astana rider goes down. Clips his wheel with a little traffic separator. Not much he could do about it, and Roglic just runs straight into him. There was nowhere to go. You have to start thinking, what has this guy done to be on the floor so many times, right? It's like yesterday he goes down. Today, he must be hurt, because he could hardly keep up with the pace of his teammates, and the whole team waited for him, and you could see he was struggling, So obviously that's a huge bummer, because he was in pretty good shape. Yesterday he was up there with Remco and with Jonas at some point. He obviously got a morale boost out of that, and then today he goes down. That's the time loss. First of all, he loses every chance for the podium. But I fear that there's more going on than just the time loss, because today he was really hurt. And the guy can suffer. We've seen already in the past.
He's tough.
He goes down and he's hurt and he keeps going. But the fact that he was struggling on the flat and having trouble keeping up with his team, I fear that there's something going on that's not good. That's not good news. Not good.
Yeah, I asked the guys this morning on the move, and I didn't get a very clear answer. What I was fishing for was, historically I thought Roglic just has bad luck in the Tour. At a certain point, you start to go, how much is luck and how much is skill? Because most riders don't crash. They're not on the deck as much as he is. You watch riders much more closely than anyone I know. Like, what do you think? How much of this is bad luck and how much of it is lack of skill? He did come to the bike late. Maybe bike handling skills are more instinctive if you started at age 10. I don't know.
He's pretty, listen, he's not bad on the bike. He does crash a lot. That's for sure. I don't know. Listen, it's not all coincidence. There's something there. Mm-hmm. There's something there that, it's too many times. It's too much, because he does have a team around him. He does have a team that keeps him safe, as far as that's possible within a bunch of the Tour de France. But, it's been a lot of times. Today, again, if you look at the images, JB, there was nothing he could do. He was just at the wrong place at the wrong moment. But usually the guys, look, the other day, Pogacar, we all remember this, the near miss he had with more or less the same kind of traffic, like road furniture. Mm-hmm. He could have gone down. He didn't. So, I feel for Primoz. It's really so. It's heartbreaking actually to see that he constantly has to come back from crashes, and what a rider. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe because it doesn't. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be, and maybe this is an indication that he's. I don't know if he's gonna keep going or not. But if he has to abandon, then maybe he will have to prepare for his fourth Vuelta win,
which is still. I know. By the way, yeah. He's won the Vuelta many, many times, and it's been because of this situation, right? He needs to go home and then resets his goals, so maybe that will happen. Okay, now after the crash, Van der Poel got caught behind that, so Philipsen lost that. Did Philipsen get caught behind it too?
No.
So you lost that combo, and then we go into the sprint and.
Philipsen already had lost Ricard in the first crash, which is normally the third guy. It's normally Ricard, then it's Robbe Gijs, and then Mathieu van der Poel, and then Philipsen. So he lost two of those. So obviously, we didn't see a lead out from Alpecin. They had no guys left. And it was a bit chaos, there was not really one team that could take control. So a really good lead out from Arkea, actually. That was the team who basically had the last lead out guy and then launching De Maar, and De Maar has not been anywhere in this tour. I think his highest placing was 7th until now. And we all know De Maar from the past. He won several stages in the Giro, won the points jersey in the Giro. Won Milan-San Remo one year. It's been a while, and so it looked like he was on the way to win. But there comes Biniam Girmay, and man, 3 stage wins for this guy. It's incredible, it's one of those examples that for him and for his team, and you can clearly see if you're in that kind of energy that everything seems to work. Whatever you do, it seems to work. You win once, and then everything seems to be in a snowball effect, and everything seems to work out fine. And Biniam and Intermarché are in this situation right now. Every time it seems to work. The morale is great. That he clearly said also. I lost my guys, but all of a sudden, with 400 meters to go, I found the wheel of Mike Teunissen, and he brought me to the front. And those are little things that we don't see, but of course they know exactly what happens, which wheel they follow. And, once he came out, it was again, Wout van Aert came close, but not close enough to threaten Biniam Girmay for his third stage win. So that in itself, winning 3 stages for him is unique, and now super, super solid in green, more than 100 points advantage on Jasper Philipsen. So that battle is over. Girmay wins the green jersey if he makes it to Nice.
What else? What else is so amazing about him winning the sprint and all these sprints is when I'm looking at the stage results. Look at who he's racing against.
Yeah,
that were in the top 9. Van Aert, Ackermann, Philipsen, De Lee, Christoph, Bauhaus, Coquard, Groenewegen. He's racing against the fastest man in the world and proving that he is equally good.
And then normally De Maar and Cavendish were in there also. De Maar got 3rd and Cavendish got 5th. They got disqualified, both of them. I've watched the images. It's debatable, I think Cavendish definitely changes his trajectory very, very obviously. I think there was a reason for that because he was there, and then the lead out guy of De Maar, I think this British guy, I don't remember his name now. I forgot the name. Maclay. He did the lead out, great lead out, and then basically he pulled off and he stopped pedaling. If you go at 65, 70 kilometers per hour and you stop pedaling, the speed you lose is incredible. And so that was it's like a rock that comes down in the peloton, and Cavendish had to go around him. That's why he had to change his trajectory. It was definitely not willingly, but he did change his trajectory. So,
and it didn't seem to affect the race. It's not like he jumped left and blocked out someone who was coming fast.
I personally think, JB, and that's what's so difficult to understand, because we've said it many times, there's no consistency in the way they apply the rules. I think, first of all, because most of the commissaires don't even understand the rules themselves. They don't know how to interpret a situation, what's right, what's wrong, and if you really bother somebody, if you really hinder somebody or not. But I think that they did it now because, in theory, they should have done it the day he won, because there he clearly changed his trajectory, although, he didn't really bother anybody, but still, it was a clear change of trajectory. They let it go. They gave him a warning the day after, and now they said, okay, now we need to disqualify you. Then also, if you look at the sprint and you see that Demar is disqualified, it's also debatable. Mm-hmm. He did change his trajectory a little bit, but he was in front. Van Aert was never next to him, and he kind of changed a little bit to the right. Yes, he did change his line, but again, these things happen in sprints. You cannot expect that a sprinter will sprint straight. That's just, so.
No, it's all about weaving through traffic, which is amazing to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think both disqualifications are debatable, really debatable. But they seem to have taken a very strict line now, and that, you can't do anything. But if you're a sprinter and you're in there, you do what you have to do to make it the shortest way to the line.
Yeah. They're wired differently, and they're going to do whatever it takes to win. That's for sure. Do you think we'll see improvements with this kind of scenario when they can do warnings like we talked about, a yellow card type? Okay.
I think it's going to change. I think that there's a yellow card first, and then the second time you get disqualified. It's going to change the behavior of the sprinters. It's something that they will need to get used to. Mm-hmm. But again, I think that's the yellow cards and the red cards. That's not the issue for me. I think it's how they apply it, and for which reason, and that it needs to be consistent. Like yesterday, I saw a stage completely irrelevant. There's a stage race somewhere I think it's in Romania. There's a stage race there. There's also some good teams there, and a Belgian guy from Lotto won the stage, and he got disqualified. But if you look at the finish, the way the finish is, it's a turn. It's like this, So the finish is like this. So once this guy was in the lead. The guy, obviously, when he sees the line, he wants to go straight to the line. He's not going to go like this,
right?
Yeah. So
you're going to cut the corner. Yes.
Yeah, he got disqualified, and I think it was completely unjustified. But he got disqualified. So. It is what it is. So, anyways, it doesn't take away anything. Biniam Girmay wins for the third time. Great result from Wout van Aert, I think. I think after his crash yesterday, the fact that he's up there, he's in the mix and trying to sprint, shows that he is on the up. I think that he's coming. And so that's great to see for him. I think it's also great for Visma and for Jonas, and especially for Belgium, also for the Olympic Games, because he's the leader for the Olympic road race. So good to see him back up there.
And you have this is basically just a reminder, because so much of the peloton has dealt with injuries in the past year, and you have an image here. Where to remind us that Wout van Aert is also coming back from injury, and how this can sometimes work in your favor to get these riders to back off a little bit from the intensity.
I don't think it's never a benefit, but it's not necessarily a catastrophe. So if you look at the picture here, I found this picture, and this is the crash of the Classic in March. It's a race called Dwars door Vlaanderen, the race that Matteo Jorgensen won. We all remember this horror crash. If you look, the guy on the bottom, the circle on the bottom, that's Wout van Aert. he was really, really badly injured. Super. I mean, he broke ribs and he was super, super, super bad. He took the longest to come back, but he's here and he's on the up. Now, the interesting thing I saw is that if you look at these other three guys, so the guy in the middle, that's Jasper Stuyven. Really injured. He broke his collarbone. He's in the Tour and he almost won a stage. The guy on top, the guy in white, that's Anthony Turgi. He was in the crash, injured. He won a stage.
Mm-hmm.
The guy in the fluo yellow, that's Biniam Girmay. He was severely injured in that crash in March. Look in the shape he is now.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, I mean, obviously they have to come back from it, but it's also, they come fresh.
Yeah.
You know, if they, once they recover from the injuries and they start the Tour with full of resources, they're fresh, they've done the training, and they are still in the upward curve of their condition. They've been building, and they're still going upwards, rather than somebody who's preparing with, you know, a lot of training, a lot of racing. You get to a point where you're at your best, and then you need to be able to maintain that form. Sometimes certain people get it wrong. They're too early in good shape. For example, guys that are flying in the Dauphiné are usually going a little bit less in the Tour. These guys are in great shape. Turgi, Biniam Girmay, Jasper Stuyven, and even Wout van Aert. So what I want to say with that is also, and I don't want to make a comparison, but, you know, the huge crash, and this was in March, so the crash in the Basque Country was in April, so it's a bit later. We had the three main guys, which were Jonas and Remco and Primoz. I mean, the guy who was most affected was another guy. It's a guy called Stef Kras, Belgian guy. I mean, the guy was super, super, super severely injured. He's at the Tour. He's racing. I think he's top 20 right now, if I'm not mistaken. He's 17th in GC. He was very, very bad, in very bad shape. But it's not necessarily a catastrophe. In the case of Jonas, of course, it's completely different because the injuries were very severe. You know, broken ribs, collapsed lung. But Remco was also injured. He broke his collarbone and his shoulder blade. And Primoz was also beat up. These three guys are in good shape. They're all there. So what I want to say is that, okay, you know, injuries in the spring sometimes translate into full of reserve, fresh at the Tour, and good results.
You know, that kind of makes me think it was obviously a benefit back when you were director and Lance would focus on the Tour and come in fresh. It was also a criticism too, wasn't it? He's not doing all these other races like all the other guys are, but it works coming in completely fresh with the sole focus. And we see less and less and less of that because these riders have so many ambitions and things they want to do.
Yeah, okay, but they I mean, you can't compare, JB, because already if we didn't race a lot, I mean, these guys raced very little. Mm-hmm. The exception is Pogacar because, you know, he did some sprint classics and he did the Giro and now he's doing the Tour. The other guys, Remco also had to sit out a long time after that crash. Primoz had to sit out, and Jonas, normally he was in after the Basque Country, he was just going to do Dauphiné, and then so they don't race that much. Right?
They are using altitude more, right?
But their training is harder than sometimes races. You know, the fact that nowadays you can monitor everything, you can basically simulate whatever you want to do. It takes a lot of mental strength to be able to make yourself go through that intensity of training that sometimes you could get from racing. But then again, if you're in a stage race, let's say you prepare for the Tour and you in the month of May you do a stage race, which is not that important. Chances are that out of 5 days, there's going to be 3 days where you don't get the intensity that normally you would do when you're training seriously for the Tour de France. So that's why they choose not to race and to train.
Well, with the increase in crashes, maybe that's going to even push it more into less racing.
Yeah.
Just to...
Listen, JB, the crashes, it's unavoidable. And you know what? We're going to see it more and more. I mean, they're going faster and faster and faster. Mm-hmm. It's, look today, 47 and a half. Just, nobody talks about this. But, 20 years ago, these were record speeds. Like those were records. Mm-hmm. Now that's just standard. 47 and a half, no big deal.
At those speeds, the road furniture comes up quickly.
Yes, very, very, very.
Okay, now we're going to go back to Biniam Girmay and just the whole story with Eritrea is just incredible. And like the more we learn about it here, we're just the more excited we're getting about it. You dug up a video that's from 2011, so this is pre. This is pre-Girmay by far.
Yeah, by far. Pre-Girmay, the whole hype right now. There's been a few professional cyclists before him. I think the first one I know of that made it to the pros was I'm trying to remember which team he was on. I want to say Kubeka or MTM or MTN. There was this team before. There's a guy. There was a rider from Eritrea. I remember I saw him in the Tour de l'Avenir. I think 2009 or 2010. I don't remember. It's a guy. He was called Daniel Tekla Heimanot. So obviously, everybody was. Okay, there's this black African who's coming here, and he was actually. I think he didn't win it, but he wore the mountains jersey for a few days in the Tour de France back then. And now we know that cycling has been very popular in Eritrea for a very, very long time. And so this video here I found, it's from the 2011 Eritrean Championships. And you can see, the guy who wins, the people. I mean, I've never seen so many people at a bike race ever, nowhere. Not at the Tour, not at the World Championships, nowhere. And the guy is carried, on shoulders. The guy who wins, and this is amazing. I mean, you see that nowhere. That kind of public attention. So it's obviously, within Africa, the Eritrean cyclists have the highest level. They're the best historically. But this kind of scenes are something really special to look at. It's amazing.
So what kind of budget do they have compared to the big teams? This Intermarché. I mean, they were lucky to have signed a great talent. Or they're skilled to have signed him.
Yeah, well, actually, JB, I found out that Intermarché picked him up in 2021. Actually, in the middle of the season, he was riding for a small French team called Delco Marseille, second division team or third division team. I don't remember, but I do remember that our ex-cyclist of Postal and Discovery and ex-director of Radio Shack, Jose Acevedo, loyal teammate of Lance, who was a director at that team. And he told me about Biniam Girmay. He says, this guy is super, super special. He's so good. And Intermarché were the first to actually make the move when they heard that team in the middle of the season was falling apart. They picked him up, probably for almost nothing, gave him a chance. And then once they saw that he had the qualities, they gave him, I think, a 3-year contract. And then, once you have the guy under a long-term contract, then it's easier to negotiate better contracts, but always something that they can afford. I mean, this is one of the low-budget teams. I don't exactly know how much it is, but it's not going to be more than 15 million. It's less than 15 million for sure.
And give us a round number that some of the bigger teams might have, like UAE or?
Well, I mean, it goes from. I mean, the top teams. It goes from 25 to 50.
Okay.
Maybe UAE is above that, but 50 million is reportedly what Ineos was their budget. So okay. I think Visma is a bit below that, and UAE may be above that. And now Bora coming in with huge money, so the budget keeps going up. I mean, you need to be 25 to 30 million to be in the game.
It was even in the news. It was even in the news that Astana is getting some new funding. You know,
reportedly they're getting a new Chinese financial backup. Yeah.
Okay, so let's come back to Girmay and Intermarché. So what happens, Johan, with a guy like Girmay when they get 3 Tour de France wins, potentially a green jersey? Do they try to, I just compare it to like my media career. You try to lock them down with a new contract. We're tearing this contract up and we're going to pay you more immediately. Yeah. What do you think's going on with him?
I think he's already on a pretty good contract. I mean, he did win Gent-Wevelgem in 2022. Then had a not such a good season last year. This year, this is the first time that we actually see him again at the front. And I'm just checking here. I mean, they have him signed up until 2026, so they're okay. I would assume that there's bonuses in his contract for big wins. So they don't have to worry. They don't have to worry about him for the next 3 years. He's tied up, and as long as they can kind of find a middle way, because I mean the challenge is now also always, even if you have a rider who signed up, let's not forget, he's only 24 years old, so he is going to be very hot on the market. Even if he has a contract, there are teams that are going to say, "Hey, is there something you can do about your contract? We want to pay you double." So well, Intermarché will need to find a middle ground. Even let's say if I don't know what his contract is, but if it's 1.5 million for example, and he gets 3 million somewhere, they're going to have to give him 2 million to make sure that he's 2 million plus bonuses. That's like something I would envision, right? So it's a constant negotiation to keep the rider happy, even if he's tied up, because he was. Let's say 2023, he was happy to sign a new 3-year deal, right? So, but now that things are going amazing, you also have to know, okay, I did make that commitment when nobody else wanted me, because 2023 was not a great year for him. So then it's a matter of finding the balance between, okay, what's fair and what can I get somewhere else, and find the middle ground. That's usually how it goes.
Well, I hate to make it about money, but these, it's a dangerous sport. And, these, especially if you're a sprinter, and it could end quickly. So you got to bank while you can. I can't imagine, like you've said, that cycling is bigger than soccer in Eritrea. So I can't imagine the market value for him off the bike. For a soda or a candy bar or a mobile company. I think right now, financial issues, that's the least of his worries. I mean, he makes good money already, but he's God in Eritrea. It's fine. Biniam Girmay is set for the rest of his days. There's no doubt about it. I know. Like I said, I hate to make it about money, but I like to see these people being taken care of, right? Yeah. He's a big star. All right. And I don't know if everybody's been listening to the move, but Lance has been saying we may go to Eritrea sometime, but what the Eritreans are hearing is we're coming to Eritrea. I was opening all these emails and looking at YouTube comments, and you guys are so funny in Eritrea. Like, we're so happy you're coming. We're going to roll out the red carpet. But so
I'd like to go. I mean, I'll talk to Lance, see if he wants to take me with him.
Yeah, I'll go. It's picking up momentum. So now let's do Ventum Trivia. We do want to give away a brand new Ventum NS1 road bike very soon. At the end of this tour, we're going to draw. You can enter every single day by submitting your answer. Yesterday's question was, what year, city, and country did Lance win the UCI road race World Championship? That was in 93 in Oslo, Norway. Today's question is, besides Cav, what other nickname is often given to Mark Cavendish? All right. Send your answer to ventumracing.com/themove.
I know that one. I know that. I know the answer.
I figured
one
you
of them.
would. I figured you would. And also, very important, if you're in the market for a brand new bike, NS1, GS1, and they even have their new e-gravel bike, which is really worth looking at, you can get 20% off right now on any Ventum bike during the tour through July. So the code that you use on checkout is the MOVE20. All right. If you want to buy a new bike, 20% off is a pretty good discount. Couple of questions for you, Johan. This is from Mike in California. He says, was Johan ever the team director or coach of an Olympic or world championship team? Does each country have a team director for tactics, etc.? Again, that's from Mike.
Yeah, no, the answer is no. I've never been the director because World Championships and Olympic road races is ridden by countries. There's a national coach. Usually that's somebody who's completely separate from professional teams. I've been at World Championships and Olympic Games, and of course I've been in contact with the national coaches, but I've never actually been in that position to direct one of those races myself, because that's a different position.
And that would be I think that's a difficult job, directing those roles, because it's not the same team. You have multiple stars, especially in Belgium, multiple stars capable of being leaders.
The thing about those races is, you put a team together, the best possible team of your country. Usually, there's the best riders from different teams, and one rider is going to win if they work properly. One rider is going to take the rainbow jersey or the Olympic gold medal, and the others have nothing. The guy who is world champion will ride the whole year with the rainbow stripes, and the guys who have helped him will be his rivals. Mm-hmm. Some of them will be teammates, but most of them will be rivals. So it's very challenging. It's difficult. It's not the same, like, for example, a soccer tournament, right? Because you also have the national team and it's different clubs, but they win together, right? If they win, here it's different. So it's a difficult job, very difficult. Yeah,
in soccer, even guys that didn't see a minute on the field win.
Yeah.
Right. they get it just the same. Here's another question, Johan and JB. First, thanks for your dedication to providing an unparalleled level of insight into bike racing we all so enjoy. You never rush the show. You always say how it is without bias. Johan, can you please compare the tactics we are seeing to tactics you saw in some of the main battles between Lance and Jan? Your tactical approach seemed to have been to have Lance sit in the wheels and be more reactive. Was there a stage in particular that you recall telling Lance to control himself and not race in the style we are seeing with Tadej? That's thanks from Dave. Good question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sit in the wheels and be reactive, that's not completely true. Usually what we tried to do was, and the Tour de France was different then. It was typically, there was a long time trial in the first week. So, of course, we tried to win that or be as close as possible. Everybody goes full gas there. And then we tried to really hit hard in the first mountain stage. And then if that worked, then we tried to defend. And it was up to the others to attack. There has been instances where, for example, Lance wanted to go or wanted to win, that I've told him, okay, it's better not. We don't need to win. Especially, not so much in terms of winning, but in terms of taking the jersey. I remember a few instances that we said, okay, listen, today is a good day, but we don't want to take the jersey. Let's just have somebody else still have the jersey. We want to take it a few days later. So from that point of view, it was a bit different. But you always have to be you always have to be really good when it matters in the mountain stage and the time trials. And then we've had a few stages where, there was crosswinds. We had to be in front. But we definitely didn't race every single stage as if it was a stage where you could take time. I think, I know I've been critical about the tactics of UAE and I still think that a Grand Tour, and especially the Tour de France, it's a 3-week effort. It's not 21 one-day efforts. It's a 3-week effort. And that's always how I try to put the strategy together, by seeing it as a whole 3-week effort and not just on one day.
And especially because he's doing the double.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see.
Okay. Good question, Dave. And thanks for writing in. If you'd like to send in a question specifically for Johan, send it to me at themove@wedo.team. And looks like do you think it's sprint or breakaway tomorrow?
I think sprint.
Okay.
I think it's going to be sprint stage.
You've got a lot of ambitious sprinters who are motivated to keep it together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Philipsen will want to. I mean, obviously they lost 2 riders, so they're down to 6. Alpecin, that's obviously not good. But there's more guys there. There's still Lotto's there. Jaiko's there with Groenewegen. De Maar was now in front, so Arkea will be ambitious. That's always good for sprint stages. If there's a sprinter who has not been in front and all of a sudden he's there, well, they get a new morale boost. So I think it's going to be a sprint tomorrow into Pau.
Okay, and if you want more insight into what Johan is thinking is going to happen tomorrow, listen to him and Spencer on Outcomes after this. It's audio only for the time being, but it's in the same podcast feed if you want to listen to them. They go in depth on predicting for the upcoming day. So anyhow, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you tuning in to JB Squared. And Johan, we will talk tomorrow.